The Camp Nou, the Maracanã, Old Trafford. These aren't just stadiums. They're structures that hold millions of moments and the dreams of soccer fans across the world. But someone had to design them. Someone had to build them. At Humber's Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology, I'm meeting the students who are learning exactly how. So what does it actually take to design and build a theater of dreams? Today, I'm at Humber Polytechnic's Fabrication Lab. Here, the students don't just study buildings, they model, stress test, and engineer them for the real world. Today, I'm joined by Rikaden, and we're talking about the structures that make the world's greatest sporting events possible, the stadiums. So, where does all the engineering start?
A stadium has to manage different types of loads, including dead loads from the weight of the structure itself, live loads from tens of thousands of spectators, and dynamic loads such as wind, seismic activity, and crowd movement.
And who are the professionals that come together to make this happen?
Yes, so engineers, technicians, and tradespeople. They use a combination of steel framework, reinforced concrete, and cantilever system to distribute those forces safely.
And so between the steel framework, the seats, and all the roof panels, there's tons of calculations involved.
Down to the millimeter. If you add a retractable roof or a cantilevered upper deck, it increases the complexity exponentially. Stadiums are some of the most ambitious structures on the planet.
Now let's talk about what the fans experience on the inside. Roslyn, how do the designers ensure that every seat has a clear view to the pitch?
So that's called sightline geometry. Every tier is angled using something called the C-value. This ensures every fan has a clear line of sight over the person sitting in front of them.
Well, that's important.
Very important. We control the angle of the seating, the heights of each row, and how far the furthest seat is from the pitch. If we get it wrong, thousands of fans lose their connection to the match.
And what about acoustics? The atmosphere inside every stadium is part of what makes the match day experience just so exciting.
Absolutely. The roof geometry and interior surfaces are shaped to contain and amplify crowd noise. A well-designed stadium turns 60,000 fans into a wall of sound. It's an engineered atmosphere.
Stadiums use an enormous amount of energy and resources. Samara, how is sustainability changing the way that stadiums are built?
This is where building science becomes critical. Modern stadiums use high-performance building systems. They regulate heat transfer, reduce energy use, and manage moisture.
That sounds very sustainable.
Exactly, because it is. FIFA requires sustainability standards for World Cup venues, so stadiums now include solar panels, rainwater systems for pitch irrigation, and natural ventilation to reduce the reliance on mechanical cooling.
So the stadium has to consider the fans and the environment.
Exactly, and there's a life cycle dimension. A stadium has to serve the host city for decades after the tournament ends, so it needs adaptability with convertible seating, modular concourses, and systems that can be maintained and upgraded without major reconstruction.
So once the stadium is built, what goes into maintaining it and keeping it at match-ready condition?
Everything needs to be constantly maintained and monitored, including HVAC systems, electrical infrastructure, fire and life safety systems, and even the building itself.
Wow, so there's a whole team of professionals working together to keep the lights on and the pitch green.
A stadium is a living building. It needs the same expertise to operate as it does to design and build. Sustainable engineering covers everything, including the design, construction, and the entire building life cycle.
We've talked a lot about how stadiums are built, but Candace, can you tell us about how they're more than just structures?
That's absolutely right. They play a really important cultural role as well, just something that can be overlooked in the excitement of the game. They bring people together through the shared love of sport and the spirit of competition, often coming to represent and sometimes shape the identity of a city, becoming part of the communal memory or the collective memory of the communities that they serve.
And what are some famous examples?
There are many examples that we could talk about. I'll try to focus on a few that you might not be quite as familiar with. So for example, San Mamés Stadium, which is located in Bilbao, Spain, is really representative of local cultural pride in the Basque region. And that's largely due to practices of the club itself. they recruit or have often recruited local players from that area. So when they were building a new stadium, a human chain was formed by both fans and locals who would pass person from person pieces of the old stadium to be installed into the new. So the new stadium itself really has come to represent the importance of both the cultural pride as well as continuity in the Basque region itself.
Wow, okay. Candace, tell us more about how a stadium can reflect the city and its people.
So in Germany, for example, Signal Iduna Park is known for its yellow wall, which is sort of this imposing grandstand where upwards of 25,000 fans can wear the club's colors, becoming part of the game itself, kind of an extension of the team, and also an extension of the actual stadium. Another example, and one that's very different, is in South Africa, in Johannesburg, where we have Soccer City. Now, the stadium itself was designed architecturally after a calabash, which is a traditional form of pottery, kind of local to that area. So the stadium itself has come to represent shared cultural roots as well as identity, things that are really important when we think about South Africa post-apartheid.
But what about our home, here in Toronto, Toronto Stadium?
Well, Toronto Stadium makes for a really interesting example because Toronto as a city is recognized globally as being multicultural and one of the most multicultural cities. So Toronto Stadium really brings people together of different ethnicities, different cultural backgrounds in one place. And in doing so, it becomes almost like a microcosm representing Canada's ever-evolving multicultural identity.
Every stadium starts with a set of calculations, a set of drawings, and a question. How do we build a space that holds 60,000 fans, represents the culture of the city, and still gives athletes the chills when they walk down the tunnel? That's sustainable building engineering. I'm Julian, and this is the Polytechnic of Soccer.